MCAT 2017 Cram, Biochemical and Biological Foundations of Living Systems. Passage 9, a young patient with type 1 diabetes. As you view the reading of the passage, you'll notice some highlighted snippets of text. What I want you to do is garner meaning from these specific selections in order to answer the questions that follow. Good luck and happy reading. Paragraph 1. A young boy is brought to the emergency department. His parents recently noticed that he has been drinking large amounts of water and urinating frequently. He then developed a minor cold last week, and over the past few days, he has become very ill. This morning, his parents had a difficult time waking him, which caused them to call an ambulance. In the emergency department, the boy's blood glucose is measured to be 527 milligrams per deciliter. The normal range is 60 to 125 milligrams per deciliter. Damn, he's like way over. And he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes mellitus. Paragraph 2. Type 1 diabetes mellitus is an autoimmune disease that affects the pancreas's ability to produce insulin. Okay, so in a healthy individual, the beta cells of the pancreas secrete insulin, which helps to uptake the glucose in the blood, and then it's processed in the cells. But when the beta cells are unhealthy and they stop making enough or any insulin at all, you have this increased concentration of glucose in the blood that's there, but it can't be accessed and used in glycolysis. Okay, so that's bad. Insulin is a hormone that helps regulate the body's energy supply. Here we see insulin binding to a receptor, and downstream, it affects all these biological reactions that basically trigger the GLUT4 transporter to intake glucose and process it in glycolysis to be used for energy by the cells, okay? It works by driving a series of metabolic reactions that help the body convert and store energy in foods into glycogen, triglycerides, and protein. On the other hand, glucagon, the font here is really small, is a hormone that has the opposite effect of insulin. It increases the concentration of glucose. So basically, it breaks down glycogen to release glucose into the blood. It increases the concentration of glucose in the bloodstream. Since individuals with type 1 diabetes mellitus do not produce enough insulin, they are required to take insulin injections in order to properly regulate the body's energy supply. Paragraph 3. The boy recovers after a few days of treatment in the hospital and is discharged home with a new medication, insulin, which he is told to take at bedtime and before each meal in order to help his body regulate his blood glucose levels. 2 weeks later, he returns to the emergency department with a blood glucose level of 35 milligrams per deciliter. Again, the normal range is 60 to 125 milligrams per deciliter, so he's sub-range or below range, okay? Figure 1, as you'll see next, depicts his blood glucose level throughout the day prior to coming to the emergency department. So figure 1, the boy's blood glucose level over the 24 hours prior to arriving at the emergency department. When the boy returns to the emergency department at 11 p.m., what is the likely cause of his low blood sugar level? Is it A, he forgot to take his insulin before eating dinner? Is it B, he forgot to take his glucagon before eating dinner? Is it C, he took his glucagon but then did not eat dinner? Or is it D, he took his insulin but then did not eat dinner? I'll give you a moment to think. Note he has a low blood sugar level. So what would cause that? All right, hopefully by now you've arrived at an answer, but if not, that's fine. Let's get into the solution now. Okay, sorry for the really fine print, but insulin is a hormone that causes the body to take glucose from the blood and basically convert it into storage forms of energy. Okay? Glucagon, on the other hand, sorry for the extremely fine print. This denotes glucagon and another hormone that has the same effect. So glucagon, amongst other things, after binding to its respective receptor, it's going to cause the body to take these storage forms of energy and convert them to glucose, which is then transported extracellularly back into the blood, okay? So on the one hand, we have insulin lowering blood sugar level, and on the other hand, we have glucagon raising it, okay? So taking insulin without eating is basically going to result in a low blood sugar level. It's most likely that the boy took his insulin, but then he didn't eat dinner. All right? Okay. What metabolic process produces the most usable energy in the form specifically of ATP? Is it going to be the TCA cycle, the tricarboxylic acid cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle? I see like one ATP here. This is GTP, not even ATP. Is it going to be glycolysis? I see an ATP being used. Is it going to be glycogenolysis? Or is it going to be the electron transport chain? Here we see some oxidative phosphorylation going on. You decide. I'll give you a moment to think. Okay, so basically the most ATP is formed through oxidative phosphorylation, as I just mentioned. And you can already guess what the answer is. Oxidative phosphorylation occurs in the electron transport chain, okay? So the electron transport chain of these four metabolic processes is the one that produces the most energy in the form of ATP. Okay, so we have ATP being phosphorylated to generate ATP, and we have some oxidation occurring as well. Here, the oxidation of NADH as well as FADH2, okay? All right. Based on the findings in Figure 1, so you might have to open up a second window to view the reading of the passage and take a peek at Figure 1, the graph showing the boy's blood glucose levels over a 24-hour time period. So based on the findings of Figure 1, in regards to carbohydrate metabolism, what is the predominant process that is occurring in the boy's body at 4 a.m.? And what is the rate-limiting enzyme? So we have these pairings. A, glycogenolysis and phosphofructokinase. I don't want to give away the answer, but I think I technically have to in order to explain these enzymes to you. So basically, phosphofructokinase, or PFK for short, is a glycolytic enzyme. Glycolytic meaning it's associated with glycolysis, and it catalyzes the irreversible transfer of a phosphate from ATP to fructose 6 phosphate. Okay, here we see a fructose 6 phosphate, but it's not undergoing the same process. Actually, yeah, PFK would act right here. Okay, so fructose 6 phosphate plus ATP is going to yield fructose 1,6-biphosphate and plus an additional ADP, okay, after the 1-phosphate is lost from ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, whereas ADP stands for adenosine diphosphate, okay? All right, let's keep it pushing. Answer choice B, glycolysis and glycogen phosphorylase. Now here we see the action of glycogen phosphorylase. I'm not sure if you can read this at step 3. It's one, actually no, this is the action of phosphofructokinase in step 3. I think I'm giving away the answer. But I'll explain to you what glycogen phosphorylase is anyway. So it's one of the phosphorylase enzymes. Glycogen phosphorylase basically catalyzes the step in glycolysis that releases the glucose 1-phosphate from the terminal alpha-1,4 glycosidic bond, okay? Is it glycolysis and phosphofructokinase? Earlier I mentioned to you what phosphofructokinase was, and here it goes acting at step 3 in the glycolysis process, again transferring a phosphate group irreversibly to fructose 6-phosphate, yielding fructose 1,6-biphosphate, okay, and an ADP molecule, as we can see here. Or is the answer D, glycogenolysis and glycogen phosphorylase? Let's see. Here goes the action of glycogen phosphorylase, releasing glucose 6-phosphate from the terminal alpha-1,4 glycosidic bonds, okay? All right. So you decide. I know this was lengthy, but what's the answer? I'll give you a really brief moment. You should know it. I just kind of sort of told you. Press pause if you need to. Okay, so let's break this down. At 4 a.m., the boy is in a fasting post-absorptive metabolic state, and during fasting, the liver breaks down glycogen to produce glucose. So automatically, answer choices B and C are incorrect because glycogenolysis is going to be the predominant process occurring at 4 a.m., okay? The process of breaking down glycogen again is what glycogenolysis is, and glycogen phosphorylase is going to be the rate limiting enzyme of glycogenolysis, okay? And the action of glycogen phosphorylase occurs right here, where it breaks the alpha-1,4 terminal linkage to yield glucose 1-phosphate. So at 4 a.m., the body is in the fasting state. glycogenolysis is the predominant process occurring, and glycogen phosphorylase is going to be the rate-limiting enzyme. All right? Okay. In figure 1, what hormone is responsible for maintaining the boy's blood sugar level overnight? So let's say from about, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., going onward to 12 a.m., all the way up until 6 in the morning. Is it A, adrenocorticotropin hormone, ACTH? Is it B, aldosterone, C, insulin, or D, glucagon? If you did one of the questions earlier, you should know the answer to this. I'll give you a moment to think. Okay, so again, overnight, the boy's body from about 6 p.m. until 6 in the morning is in the fasting, or also what's known as the post-absorptive state. Post-absorptive meaning after absorbing your food in the small intestine. So during this post-absorptive state, the body metabolizes energy storage forms, okay? For example, triglycerides, fats, and proteins, okay? And turns it into glucose. So glucagon is basically the hormone that's going to do this. So here goes glucagon binding. Adrenaline also has the same effect, and it's going to initiate, certain metabolic processes to break down glycogen or fat or proteins, okay? So again, glucagon is a hormone that drives the metabolic reactions during the fasting state, and glucagon is responsible for maintaining the boy's blood sugar levels overnight. Notice you don't get as much blood sugar, as fast as you would from ingesting some fresh glucose, okay? All right. If the boy forgets to take his insulin before breakfast but still eats a meal high in carbohydrates, what metabolic process will be occurring in the adipose tissue immediately after his meal? Is it going to be lipogenesis, the making of fat, ketogenesis, making of ketone bodies, ketogenolysis, the breakdown of ketones, or ketone bodies rather, or D, lipolysis, the breakdown of fat? I'll give you a moment to think. This might not be so obvious initially, but it should occur to you after a few seconds what the correct answer choice is. All right. Okay, so the funky thing is that if the boy forgets to take his insulin, even after he eats, I'm pretty sure he eats right here and like around lunchtime there, his body will remain in the fasting or post-absorbing state despite having increased blood sugar levels, okay? And during the fasting state, glucagon is the primary hormone that's going to be driving metabolic reactions, and specifically in adipose tissue, fat cells, glucagon promotes lipolysis, the breakdown of fat, okay? And here we can see that after the fat is broken down, it's going to release either glycerol or fatty acids. The glycerol will contribute to generating glucose, and the fatty acids will yield ketone bodies, okay? That can be used by like the heart. The glucose will go to the brain. Okay,